In a series of videos posted on this channel, the gender pay gap was debunked, and we will just highlight the videos briefly, and if they're of interest to you, feel free to watch them for more detail, especially the relevant sources. The basis, of course, is pretty simple. For every dollar a man makes, a woman makes just a fraction of that. The exact figure has not yet been agreed upon, but it ranges from like 63 to 80 something cents. Basically, a man and a woman, working side by side, doing the same everything, including job and the number of hours, and then the woman being paid less because of simple discrimination, which boils down to the fact that she is a woman. And so the question goes, if a profit-making organization could get away with paying women less than men for doing the exact same job, why would organizations bother with hiring men? Why not disproportionately hire women, underpay them, and increase the organization's profit margin significantly, which is of course good for investors? The fact that some of the biggest companies in the world are faced with scandals associated with using children as a source of free or cheap labor is testament to the craving for cheap labor by multinational corporations. So if women, according to their argument, are a source of cheap labor, why bother with raising the cost of human capital for organizations in the name of hiring men? Of special interest is always how they do their calculations to arrive at how women earn less than men. They add all the annual salaries of men and women working full-time and they find the median, and that's it. Men earn more than women because of discrimination. Two things are of interest with how they calculate the alleged gender pay gap. First, they count the working hours for those in full-time employment only, that is, 40 or more hours a week. This is interesting because on average, women working part-time out-earn men working part-time. They already have that in the bag, so now they don't want to talk about it anymore, they move on to other things. Women are way more likely to work part-time than men are, while more men work full-time compared to women, which could be used to explain who earns more working what. Second, using the median of men's and women's salaries and coming up with the gender pay gap allegations doesn't account for factors that influence how much a person earns, including the number of working hours, the nature or type of work, personalities and interests, and the amount of time spent in a single career, among others. The most statistically significant being number of working hours and career choice that will be discussed in a bit. Then comes the motherhood penalty claim, which goes something like, women lose jobs and promotions because of pregnancy, and subsequently, every child a woman has reduces their earnings by 5%. The opposite is alleged to be true for fathers, who tend to receive a so-called fatherhood premium as they earn more with the arrival of children. Allegedly, pregnant female managers are unfairly perceived to be less committed, less dependable, and more emotional. The whole women being emotional thing was examined using studies presenting the relationship between menstrual cycles and emotional dysregulation in women. Some studies suggest that a good number of reproductive age women report experiencing distressing premenstrual symptoms that are worsened by concurrent mood problems that contribute to long-term depression. Supporting studies suggest that women's emotional dysregulation while pregnant is associated with dysregulation risks in the newborn. Emotional intelligence, which basically refers to positively managing one's emotions, is fundamental for leadership success and team outcomes because the leader motivates the team towards collective actions and facilitates supportive relationships. Emotion dysregulation and emotional intelligence don't go hand in hand, thereby explaining the perceptions of female pregnant managers. Regarding the motherhood penalty and the fatherhood premium, some studies suggest that parents are judged to be less agentic and less committed to the job than non-parents, even though fathers are viewed more leniently than mothers, and other men. With the whole fathers earning more than mothers because of their respective genders, well, fathers on average work more than everyone else, including mothers and non-parent men. These working hours do translate to money. Children affect fathers' working hours more than mothers, with the difference in working hours for fathers and men without children being 7 hours, while women without children work 3 hours more than those who have children. Of course they will argue mothers spend more time doing unpaid care work in the home. Well, combining both paid and unpaid care work results in fathers working on average 2 more hours than mothers every week. Then there's the argument that women are forced to take career breaks when the family relocates, which contributes to the gender pay gap. Well, over time, with the whole feminist movement, and women working, and everything related, the female homemaking role is slowly fading while the male providing role has persisted. Even with women today working just like men, the expectation of the man providing still persists. So if the man is the primary provider and his job requires him to move, what makes more sense for the family, and especially the woman? The financial stress theory suggests that women are more sensitive to financial difficulties in a union and hence file for divorce at rates disproportionately higher than men. But when the man has to move for work, it is a problem. Wives' economic independence is not associated with marital disruption. Breadwinning responsibilities are still central to the marriage contract for husbands. Some studies suggest that the decision of who puts their career on a break is more influenced by who is earning more than it is by gender. Well, women expecting providing men and being hypergamous, thereby preferring and marrying men who earn more than them, isn't men's fault now, is it? Subjecting women to breadwinning responsibilities is associated with a whole range of negative feelings because of the underlying mothering ideal. The decisions related to career breaks for men are associated with changes in jobs, while for women they are associated with changes in working hours. Couples considering a job change for husbands do not discuss the wife becoming the breadwinner, even temporarily. Stay-at-home fathers are more concerned with workforce re-entry compared to stay-at-home mothers, which is explained by the fact that employment breaks affect men's future earning prospects compared to women's. The greater damage to men's future incomes are associated with deviations from the male providing roles. Then one of the most important contributors to earning differences between men and women, the number of working hours. As mentioned before, on average men work more than women. Even though the number of hours women spend in paid employment have increased dramatically over the recent past, men still work more hours than women. Most importantly, no one works more than fathers. Fathers work more than other men, women, and mothers. Again, these hours translate to money, and when they do, we're told of a fatherhood premium where fathers are paid more for being fathers while mothers are paid less for being mothers. Further, married fathers have to work more than single fathers, while married mothers have to work less than single mothers. So, marriage for men increases the number of working hours, while it reduces the number of working hours for women. Again, as already mentioned, there are way more women that work part-time than there are men, that is, 10% of women and 4% of men work part-time. The explanations they will give you as to why more women than me work part-time will be everything except the fact that on average, part-time work pays more for women than for men, is clearly presented by this article by The Insider. This graph is a presentation of women's earnings as a percentage of men's relative to working hours. Check out 0 to 39 hours, of interest being the fact that women working 5 to 9 hours earn almost 120% of what men make, with those working 30 to 39 hours earning more than 110% of what men earn. Check out where men start out earning women, and that's where the whole equality discussion starts. When women are out earning men, it's not a problem, but the opposite is close to being declared a global disaster, an example of the patriarchy and how men seek to subordinate and dominate women. Men outnumber women in employees who work full-time, with men being twice as likely as women to work more than 50 hours a week. 25% of men work more than 40 hours a week compared to 14% of women. The choice of working hours then translates to who earns what, but they carefully choose to ignore that. The article by The Insider is supported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which also shows the same trend where there are more women working part-time and women out-earning men in part-time work, while the opposite is true for full-time work. However, the problem or the discussion begins where men earn more than women. When men work more than women and therefore earn more than women, it is called discrimination. The ugly side of it that of course will never be discussed as much because men are at the disadvantage is the fact that more men than women die because of working long hours, according to the World Health and the International Labor Organizations. Working extremely long hours exposes men to some of the leading causes of death in the world, including ischemic heart disease and stroke. Of those who die from working long hours, 72% of them are men. Would they call this an example of inequality? Have you ever heard them mention this? Then there is career choice, which is the hallmark of their discussions surrounding inequality, sexism, discrimination, and everything you can think of. Common knowledge dictates that some careers pay more than others for a wide range of reasons, most common being technicality, the amount of work that goes into being a professional, the nature of work, and the number of people in the career. So the basic argument is this: the median salary for women is lower than that of men because women are underrepresented in high-paying jobs, while they're overrepresented in low-paying ones. Why? Because of sexism and discrimination that keeps women out of the high-paying jobs. Some of the examples of the high-paying jobs commonly highlighted by the gender pay gap proponents include surgeons, revenue officers, cardiologists, and engineers, while some of the low-paying jobs include health and social work, education, and administrative services. The original video details how gender differentiation influences male and female career choice using a number of explanations. The social role theory, which is largely supported by feminists and like-minded people, suggests that gender differences are a product of socialization, evidenced by differences in how societies raise boys and girls. Basically, feminists argue that giving boys action figures and cars for toys sets them up for high-paying engineering jobs while dolls set up girls for low-paying social work jobs. The direct genetic effects, which is largely the biological account of gender differentiation, suggests that gender differences arise from the X10 and 10Y chromosomes in women and men respectively. Some studies suggest that gender differences go beyond anatomy to include the brain, behavior, and hormones. On the one hand, male typical psychosexual characteristics are influenced by androgen exposure during the early stages of development. On the other hand, female typical psychosexual characteristics are organized under the influence of estradiol during the prepubertal period. Girls who are exposed to high levels of prenatal androgen exhibit male typical behavior because of a genetic disorder called congenital adrenal hyperplasia, which explains the effects of testosterone on children and their play behaviors. Some studies associate androgen exposure to some observable gender differences in infancy, such as toy, color, and shape preferences. As opposed to what feminists argue that society shapes boys and girls differently at infancy, society just responds to what infants want, thereby making socialization reinforcements secondary to biological basis since they come first. As early as 24 months, girls look at dolls more while boys look at trucks more. Subsequently, girls may prefer pink since most dolls are pink, thereby presenting the relationship between biology and socialization that feminists largely dispute. Gender differences in 3D mental rotation, which is important in STEM careers such as engineering, are observable as early as infancy. Besides, women are more interested in people while men are more interested in things, back to infant girls and dolls and infant boys and cars or action figures. Gender differences in the people-things dynamic have been used to explain the underrepresentation of women in STEM, with men's interest in things manifesting in the choice of things-oriented professions such as engineering, while women's interest in people manifesting in the choice of people-oriented professions such as nursing and social work. The healthcare profession presents one of the best examples of gender differences in the people-things dynamic. Healthcare is a female-dominated field, especially considering the fact that nursing is the largest healthcare profession. It therefore follows that majority of people who enroll into medical school are women, but the gender differences in career choice are interesting. With all the claims of misogyny and sexism in science and STEM, women are still preferred 2-to-1 in STEM faculty positions. The original video from which this section has been picked documents some of the highest paid professions and their gender compositions, which is something like this. Check what some of the female-dominated professions are paying annually, especially orthodontists, psychiatrists, pediatricians, administrative managers, public relations professionals, nurse practitioners, and health managers. The video also compiles some of the lowest paying professions, and as you can see, most of the lowest paying professions are male-dominated. So when they say that women are underrepresented in high-paying professions while they're overrepresented in low-paying professions, what do they mean exactly? Then there's Almanac's ranking of 25 of the worst jobs in the world, especially in terms of working conditions and their likelihood of causing death. The worst jobs in the world, also called death professions, are dominated by men, with the average dominance across these 25 jobs being around 92%. So when they say that women are overrepresented in the lowly paying professions and the worst jobs, what exactly do they mean? Do you think they'll ever get to a point of wanting affirmative action and quotas in these death professions as they do with the high-paying ones?